Hey everybody, Mags here. We are going to review some of the hints and tips that we've been given this year on the Dynasty Hot Seat. If you are new here, do me a favor, can you like, comment, share on this video for me, please, like you can see here. And then also, if you're new here, why not hit that subscribe button too? It really helps out. Right, on to the hints and tips.
Joe, we're just going to get stuck right in it. Segment one. Segment one's called The Art of War. It's your hints and tips for Dynasty. Now, a lot of people have been quoting that book, so I don't know if you'll be doing the same. But so far, I think 3 out of 4 guests have quoted The Art of War by Shang Shu. So I've just decided to name that segment The Art of War. So it's just your hints and tips for Dynasty.
Man, I'm not going to be as philosophical then as your other guests because I will not be quoting The Art of War. But a lot of people in our Discord and our Patreon, they would love that because we have a little section for it's called the Bookworms. It's a channel that they discuss books, and I'm like, I'm just here for fantasy. I don't want to read a book. Come on. But there's so many things, like you see people on Twitter and even on Dynasty Theory, we talk about it, more in-depth analysis, and people can get very overwhelmed, especially when taking that leap from redraft or best ball to Dynasty. But you don't have to be a genius. I'm living proof of that. You don't have to be a genius to play Dynasty. Two of the things, so I have 3 points I want to touch on. 2 of them are strictly really like paying attention. The first one, it's as simple as knowing your league settings. I cannot tell you how many leagues I'm in and how many people I've interacted with where you discuss a trade with somebody and they're like, oh, I didn't know this was 2 PPR for tight ends, or I didn't know it was 6 points for a passing touchdown as opposed to 4. The big thing for me, know how your rookie draft order is decided, because so many times people will trade a pick not realizing that it's based on potential points as opposed to standings, or it's based on this as opposed to that, or you have a lottery, which I think is a terrible way to do it. But, knowing your league settings, it's as simple as that, to not necessarily give you an edge, but just so you don't fall behind. And I think that's so critical. The next one I have, be engaged. If you are taking part in Dynasty Fantasy Football, you most likely are a fantasy football degenerate, most likely. Yeah. So I'm not saying you need to necessarily be trading 24/7. That's not it. We're not talking about just churning your roster over and over and over, but be engaged. If there's a league chat, even if you're creeping behind the scenes, pay attention. Hey, Connor just jumped in there and said, Matthew Stafford is on the block. Okay, well, I'm paying attention to that. I see that you're looking to move him. I'm jumping in because that's somebody personally I know I'm higher on than the general market. So because I'm paying attention, that is one way to set yourself apart. And there's so many people that just exist in dynasty leagues, and I'm sure you've seen it.
Yes,
they join the startup draft or the auction draft to kick it off. We don't hear from them until next year's rookie draft. And then you can see those are the teams that gradually, as the years accumulate here and your dynasty league progresses, those are the teams that fall behind. So just be engaged. I can't stress that enough. And then the last one, being able to adapt. And this goes with ADP, your player evaluations, the way you approach dynasty in general. There are so many people, this is my strategy. I'm sticking with it. It works sometimes. It doesn't work sometimes, but I'm never going to adapt. This is my strategy. This is the way I attack the quarterback position in Superflex. Even if it's tight end premium, I don't look to bolster my tight end room. And they're stuck in their ways, and you see it all the time. Hey, Connor, I know you sent me an offer for Joe Mixon, but I took him in the second round of our startup, and you're offering me this. Well, things have changed since then. Things have changed since 5 minutes ago, to be honest with you, because of how quickly news comes out, especially with rumors during this time of the offseason.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Perceived value is constantly changing. So I think adaptability is so, like I keep saying, critical, but it really is. So not necessarily the art of buying low or selling high or getting youthful assets with insulated value or getting veterans to help you win now. That is a 10-hour-long discussion that you could have separately.
Yeah.
But just high-level tips that whether you're a grizzled veteran of the dynasty game or you're jumping in your first league, those are overarching, I think, strategy, not necessarily even strategies, just things to pay attention to, where I don't think there's much gray area there. Because again, when you start to get into, well, this is the way I attack this position or that, or that, or that, there's so many nuances, and there is a certain gray area associated with that. But for this, it's overarching, and it can be used from league to league. And I talk about being adaptable. The example I use with Joe Mixon there, I think a lot of people give into that sunk cost fallacy, and what you paid last year or in your rookie draft, it doesn't matter. Trey Sermon's a perfect example. And I think overall the market has reflected that. But if you took him at 201 in your rookie draft, and now you're trying to move him for an early second in 2022, no, Connor, things have changed. That's not going to fly. So I think being able to adapt, talking about the sunk cost fallacy to a little bit of a deeper dive, but those are all things that you should be paying attention to and keeping in the back of your mind when you're playing Dynasty Fantasy Football. God, Connor, I could talk your ear off all freaking day.
Let's do. I can keep going. We keep recording. It's all right. I got nowhere to be. No, I absolutely love those hints and tips. Like the be engaged one is, it seems so obvious, and I imagine anybody listening to a Dynasty podcast is going to be one of those people. But yeah, I like that. You're saying there are just people there that aren't engaged. Like, I think a perfect example of that was last season whenever AJ Brown started to take a dip. You just had to start rubbing your hands together and going, right, let me just bid for AJ Brown in every single league I don't have him. Because if I'm engaged with that and I get in ahead of everybody else, then you can get him for those cheap prices. And you can see a lot of the time, like it was a very unrealistic trade, but it worked. I got AJ Brown for Julio Jones and a first in one league, which is, crazy. But yeah, thank you. But below, the first comment below was some guy saying, oh, I would have given you more than that. It's like, well, you didn't. Like, you missed a boat. Like,
that is the thing, and it drives me crazy. It's the people that aren't always engaged, or the people that don't make trades, they're always the first to respond in the chat. Oh man, that was so lopsided. I would have given more than that. I saw the offer you sent me, Connor. You weren't giving me more than that. What are you talking about? So that I love that. It ties in exactly to being engaged. If you were around, and even if you're just paying attention to what's going on, I do the same thing. You mentioned AJ Brown, but I do the same thing with injured players. My rostership of J.K. Dobbins, Travis Etienne, even Cam Akers. I know there was a concern with the Achilles, but that stock has started to rise, at least until recently, because of how he played in the playoffs. Even Derrick Henry, he was cheap to begin with because of his age, but now you have the injury to basically end his season. Those are all things to help you stay ahead of the curve. And I guess more of a player specific strategy as opposed to the other ones, but going out and getting those injured players that still are going to return value as soon as they become active again. So I like the comparison with AJ Brown there.
Yeah, absolutely love it. So those are three, incredibly good tips for other people to use and all the listeners to use.
Thank you so much for watching today's video. Remember, like this video, leave a comment if you want, and subscribe to the channel. These videos are going to be coming thick and fast, so you don't want to miss anything. So that's it for today. In the meantime, keep yourselves, keep your teams lit. We'll see you next time.